well in this van though. I think well,
It's
no, it's a
alright,
full.
isn't it?
Yeah, you can drive off if you want.
drive off. Exactly.
Last time I spoke to you last year was one of your fun interviews when you were in South Africa.
Uh-huh.
And we'd forgotten about that course. We were talking if you'd played a couple
Oh,
before,
yes.
a time ago.
An undercover one, yeah.
Undercover.
But no one would have known.
No. So obviously we can't give away the plot of what's happening today, but can you sort of briefly talk about what's happening on the moors in general?
What's happened? Well, it's kind of linked to the pilot that we did last year. A body's been found up on the moors. This will be the second book that goes out in a collection of 3 this series, and it has echoes back to the pilot we did last year, Aftermath, and that's about all I can say, really. Yeah.
We don't know that Lucy comes back, but obviously we can't
No.
talk about that or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
What did you think of the response to the pilot? I mean, it was
Fantastic, really fantastic. I mean, a lot of the sort of previews went, oh, they're putting it up against Spooks on a Monday night. So they obviously don't hold out much hope for it, you know, putting it against something as established and that. And lo and behold, it beat Spooks, and it was in our favour that it went out on consecutive Mondays, because they then had sort of 7 days to do a bit of a U-turn and go, my God, did you see the figures on that? Maybe we should watch it.
Yeah.
So they really gave it a big push for the second one, and lo and behold, the figures went up for that as well, when, you know, most second parts of things usually go down. So we were absolutely thrilled to bits, and that's when we got the commission. Well, you just hope. Yeah, I mean, I think because the books have such a following, Peter's books, and he tried for so long to get it on screen, and it was one of the first things I did after Andy had come out to South Africa to give me the scripts, was to go and meet Peter. So I flew out to meet him in Tampa. He lives in Canada most of the time. He's from Leeds originally, but goes to thaw out with a few neighbours in Florida, very wise, during the height of the Canadian winter. So I spent 3 days in Tampa with him, and, you know, picked his brains, and I think, you know, you get very involved when you meet the creator of it all, and I always feel sort of sorry for authors in a way, because when the stuff gets made onto screen, it's like handing your child over and say, yeah, do what you want with any of its features, and it must be heartbreaking. So I wanted to get as close to the spirit of the character that he created in his books.
Is it possible to get too close to a character?
Well, no, because I'm 5 inches too tall. I've got the wrong colour eyes, and I'm not from Peterborough originally. So we're just having a stab, but he's very pleased with. He's been over a lot since then. We met up for the pilot, and he came up to Newcastle to see my play that I was doing earlier in the year, and he's been around for the first week of shooting for this. So it's lovely to have him there, and as involved as he is. And the crew all get a bit starstruck when he appears on set, because they've all started reading the books as well and really got into it.
But it's great because there are so many books, aren't there? So
Exactly.
You must be able to see, I mean, I haven't read them, but you must be able to see a development in the character, which must be a great help to you.
Yes, it is, and the beauty of each of Peter's novels is that each case is slightly different, so there's a slightly different feel about all of them, and for us, you know, we can bring in a new director and they put their spin on it, and it's very right for each individual book that comes along, so there's always a freshness there.
Andrew was telling us about playing with fire, the story.
Which we did literally.
Yeah, and
for a couple of days.
Without giving too much away in the story, but you were involved in the
Yeah,
fire. I mean,
it was hot out there.
How was that for you?
It was terrific. I love all that. So yeah, it was lots of gas jets everywhere. It looks far more dramatic than it probably was, although the medic did stop one take when he was convinced he could smell hair on fire. It's a very distinct. But Andrea and I were looking. We were pretty sure it wasn't us. I don't have that much to burn, and, you know, it's quite close. But yeah, you work with them and try and get as close to things as possible, and they were knocking bits of furniture over just as we'd gone past, and it all looks terrific.
And was that done in a studio in?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, with the fire brigade there, and yeah, it was all very exciting.
Any other stunts for Alan Banks this time round, or
Um,
scrapes, or
What else have we done? I've hit a suspect so far, but he was making racist comments to Winsome at the time, so I was quite justified in my little world. No, they're just there. But as I say, each case is very different from the last and very intriguing. And the first one deals with a potential art fraud situation and a few people getting burnt to death. And there's this art fraud scam going on, so we're trying to find the mastermind of that. And one of there's a second boat that gets burnt and an occupant on there, and that leads us down a sort of another parallel story. So they managed to fit sort of two stories within the one. Yeah. They're very well woven.
Yeah. Is he still? Have you changed anything about him at all this time? Because obviously we saw last time round how completely wrapped up he was in the job and troubled, and you could see the difficulty.
Yeah, he was getting to the stage of hallucinating last year, that he could see these five girls in his. But there's one quote that Peter has in the books that Banks carries around with him, which is a John Donne quote, which is, "Any man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind." So he takes it all way too serious, but it's a beautiful quote, a great one for a policeman. That dogged determination that he won't rest until he's done his job. But he won't break the laws either in order to get a quick result. They're very much sort of procedural novels, and modern policing there's an awful lot of things you have to get correct. Otherwise, a lawyer will just get people off on technicalities. And yet, so gone are the days of the real, beating suspects up and
but
all that. They've taken the fun out of it.
As we saw at the end of the last series, he said to Annie, "You're ambitious, ruthless, and immoral. Every team needs a player like that." You can see that. You need that.
Yeah, and and it's, I suppose most of the ongoing saga with Annie is trying to rein her instincts in and making sure that she does do everything by the book. She's more sort of headstrong as he was as a younger copper in London, so I think he sees a lot of himself in her. And there's this, sort of will they, won't they situation starting to develop as well.
Yeah.
And do you like? I mean, it seems to me he goes into quite sort of dark places. Do you like that as an actor?
Yeah, well, I mean, I love having the variety between that and Danny. They're, poles apart. It's going back to when I had Damien and Father Peter running concurrently as well. Twins separated at birth. So yeah, it's a sort of Jekyll and Hyde thing going on. It's great. It's a different set of acting muscles to use, and I think, as I say, all actors love the chance at variety. And so getting the chance to have two such different characters is fantastic for me.
But it's funny with audiences. We were talking about detectives on TV the other day. Someone said, "Well, you never get anybody who's married with 2 children, do you?"
Successfully, no.
Yeah, no, indeed.
Successfully married to the job, but yeah,
do they have to be slightly?
Well, I think so.
The wrong word, but unstable.
Yeah, I guess, and statistically, it's like army marriages. A lot of they're such vocational jobs that they do sort of take up all your thinking time, and it's very hard for them to separate private life from working life.
And he's obviously still got the stone-walled country cottage.
Exactly.
But then I think one of the posters is the Snacks poster. I don't know if that's still there.
I think it is. Yeah, and his love of jazz as well. He's not as obsessive as Morse was about his music.
Yeah.
He just has, Peter said he wanted to write someone who was not extraordinary.
Yeah.
He said all the coppers he knows are, they are pretty much married to the job, but they're very ordinary people.
Yeah. He's not going to release a jazz album.
No, certainly not. I'll leave that to Hugh Laurie. He's got that sewn up.
Did you get much feedback from real coppers? Really?
Well, the day after the pilot went out, we were on our week's break from Wild at Heart, so it coincided. I was in London to do a lot of publicity, and the first one went out, and I was walking down Oxford Street the next day, and a police car went past, and the 2 occupants saluted me, which was fantastic. And that really made me smile, and I'm very grateful to the 2 gentlemen involved. Made me feel great. And we get a lot of real coppers on this when we're doing the scene of crime things. We have a scene of crimes officer there, and all of them, they said, it's very realistic, and
that must be very satisfying.
Oh, it is. It's lovely, and it's nice to have them there to go. Would I do this? Would I do that? Is there anything that makes you think, oh, he's just an actor rather than a policeman? Because you are representing them as well, and you feel duty bound to get it as right as you possibly can. And Peter always does in his novels. So.
And in terms of your career, would you like to see this arching ahead?
Yeah.
You'd like to look back and say, this is the show.
Yeah,
I'm most proud of.
Absolutely, and I really admire him as doing the job he does. I could think of no one better that you'd want on your side, not on your back. Yeah.
You mentioned Wild at Heart. What's the position with that? Do we know?
Well, it's provisionally green lit, and they're juggling episode numbers and dates for filming at the moment. But I think we're all in place. Yeah.
So that would be late.
That would be late. Well, based on last year, mid to late July through to mid December.
Well, that seems bulletproof to me as well.
Well, I hope so. I mean, last year really it did better than the previous year in terms of figures. It seems to have found a real core audience now that absolutely adore it, and the Beeb threw everything at it last year, from Lark Rise to South Riding and all that, and it stayed at sort of average at 7.5 million.
Was it not a bit late? I'm trying to. Was it?
Quarter, half eight. I think it's on. Yeah, but it's found that nice slot in between the icing slots, and it's worked very well.
And no complaints about the family time away from.
Well, no, I mean, because we're very lucky with an hour's time difference, so the Skyping, which you can do every day. Skype's just like the best invention ever. You're in someone's living room and free. Yeah, and Daisy spends half her summer holidays out there every year, so I've had 6 years of being just the luckiest dad in the world, going, here's Africa. Yeah. And it's joyous, absolutely joyous. And she's grown up with a lot of the animals and does, spends a lot of time with them, and has learned to swim out there and horse ride, and it's the best of both worlds. It really is
terrific.
Yeah.
When if and when that finishes, would you actually think about buying somewhere out there? Or?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm really enjoying and have for the last 6 years, the 5 months there. But so I don't know. I guess you'd have to ask me once it had stopped how much I was missing it.
It's still in the draw.
But it's
isn't it? It's work.
But it's very much in my way of life, and has been for 6 years now, and I look forward to it every time.
You mentioned live theatre that you did.
Yeah.
Go back on stage again?
Hope so, yeah. And with the character that I played, Freddie the Suit, who was a particularly nasty gangster, was joyous fun to play. And there's a couple of TV companies who came up to see it who were interested in the writer Sean Prendergast developing that character for a possible TV series, and there's possible future for the play to go again as well.
And I'm interested to know what you thought of Danny Cohen's comments about male detectives. Did you catch up with that? He thought there were too many male detectives on BBC One. I mean, did you? I mean, the context of this. Do you feel
well, there were two new females out last week, wasn't there? In Case Sensitive and Vera.
Yeah.
I suppose it is a male-dominated world. And acting is as well, so yeah, I think it's always going to be stacked in the man's favour. And I think because it felt like with Frost and Morse and Barnaby all going at the same time, that of course they're going to be eager to put new kids on the block, as it were. I just hope I'm the one that lasts longest.
If David allowed me to ask, I'm doing a piece for Manchester Evening News as well. When did you move to Lytham? What age, Stephen?
I think I was 4.
4,
yeah.
So would Liverpool have been the nearest big city that you gravitated to through?
Or Manchester, and so Preston as well nearby.
Yeah. And you've worked quite a bit in Manchester, haven't you?
Yeah. And I'm hopefully going to go back to the Royal Exchange before not too long.
Yeah.
It's my favourite theatre in the country.
Still a firm borough.
Oh yes, I'm proud to say they eked into the top half of the table at the end of the season on 0 goal difference, so they're exactly the same place as when they started. But Tony Mowbray's doing a good job.
Yeah. Do you manage to catch the games when you're in?
Very rarely. I managed to catch the game last week when they thumped Cardiff. So they had a very good latter end of the season.
And you're no doubt still celebrating the Ashes. I'm Australian, I've got to ask you.
Well, exactly. It was fantastic. It really was. I just waited an awful long time for it, and I remember where I was the last time we won the Ashes, so it was nice to remark it.
Balloon stuff.
Oh yes,
that was fantastic.
That was good fun.
Any more balloon trips planned?
No, I'm very keen to do more continents beginning with A. We haven't cracked Asia or America or Antarctica, so we've still got the balloon.
Even more ambitious. Well, I suppose America.
Yeah, North America would be great. Be very good. Or Asia.
Gosh, how do you find it when you're out there? I mean, to me, it would just absolutely scare the pants
off. No, you don't at all. It's so serene, and because you don't fight against anything. Most forms of transport are going through the wind, which is why you get buffeted, or the sea's moving you up and down. But you're being hopefully gently pushed by the wind, so you don't fight against anything. So it is the nearest thing to a magic carpet. And there were some times in both Australia and Africa where you're looking for 360 degrees. There's no sign of man at all. You just feel like the only people on the planet. It's like time stopped still. Those moments, a few sort of. Yeah, well, we'd certainly be game, Robin and I.
And just going back to this, obviously we know that Annie has a relationship with an expert witness or whatever. But, I mean, and obviously there's the sexual chemistry between you. Is there any other romantic involvement for Alan Banks in this? I mean, is he looking for anything like that? Or?
Well, he gets quite close to someone in this episode, but again, that's a relationship that can never happen. He's not quite over his wife, I don't think, and he knows it's his fault that the marriage split up because he was so involved in his work. So I think he still feels guilty about that. But I don't know if he's quite ready yet. We shall see. There are various adventures he has in the book.
Yes.
But they're sort of few and far between. And the relationship in the books with Annie is a lot more on than it is off.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know if we're developing that in that direction yet. I'm always the last to know.
Yeah, but they can never. I mean, it's the classic thing. You can never get them.
Well, exactly. It would spoil it, I think.
Yeah. And Stephen, you're looking fitter than I've seen. When I saw you.
Yeah,
doing a lot of running or.
Well, the play was very physical. So the weights there, I got a bit thinner towards the end of the last series out in South Africa. But then I usually put the weight back on over Christmas. But because I was doing the theatre show, it sort of kept off, and I've managed to keep it off doing banks as well. Got me running round a lot, so it's good fun.
And just on what the audience sees on the screen, I remember in the first app, it was quite gory. I mean, you don't see it, but of course you imagine you're.
Yeah.
I mean, what about this series? Do you think it's?
There's
similar.
The first two episodes, there's fire is the sort of weapon of choice of this killer. So there's a few burnt bodies that there's quite a few scenes in the morgue, and we use a real morgue, which are always a bit close to the bone. And Sam, who's an expert makeup artist, has been doing a hell of a job on some of the victims. So it's as sort of real as it can be, but that's the sort of beauty of the books, is that they're not overly gory for the sake of it, no. but they are dealing. You are dealing with very unpleasant thing, and we see the reaction to it. Banks isn't, he gets affected when he sees any dead body, and especially if it's a young girl or it's a burns victim. There are smells that come off the people, and you have to deal with them.
So do you think that's what a modern audience expects, or
well, I think so. Yeah, it's much more in the prime suspect area rather than Midsummer Murders, for example. And there's nothing clever about the murders either. It's like that one in Vera. They had people putting herbs around the bath and things like that. Yeah. These are more just the straightforward murder cases that policemen have to deal with every day. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing really glamorous about it.
Andy was telling us about her real life fire.
Yeah.
Has anything like that happened to you?
Not with a fire, no, fortunately. But
or anything else?
Well, when we did the big fire on the set in South Africa in the third series, when we burnt down the animal hospital, and just the heat from that, it was like white heat. Before you got anywhere near it, the cameraman's arm started to blister, and the flames were way over there, but something that can move that quickly and invisibly and affect you just terrifies the life of you. Absolutely nothing you could do. Everything's telling you that if you came across it, you'd be able to somehow muddle your way out of it. But I think when you breathe something in, you're taking out the game. It's terrifying. Terrifying.
And that final scene of the pilot, where he, having drunk whiskey all night, and then forces Lucy to
confront her own demons.
That was a brilliant ending. It's a fantastic ending. But why is Banks compelled to do that? Is it just the fact?
It's his idea of justice. Lucy could have taken the soft option and gone for an insanity plea, which she would have been given, and you could have told the victim's parents that it was her husband that did all the killing, so they'd have had closure. But that still didn't sit right with Banks. He knew that she was sane, that she chose to do those things, and that the proper sentence for her was a full term in prison.
But it really powerfully showed his character,
and Charlotte was fantastic as well. Charlotte Riley, very lucky to get her.
Do you think he's one of the most emotionally driven detectives you've had on?
Well, he's not as emotional as Volander, who cries every episode.
We don't count him. No.
He's got too many Yorkshiremen round him that would be the first to criticise him for crying. But yeah, he certainly does get. He does get emotionally involved, certainly, and it does take an awful. I think each case takes a lot out of him, and that thing about wanting to, return the victims to their parents as well, and not being able to rest with that. And it was only until the final victim had gone to be buried properly that he stopped seeing them. So that was to give you an impression of how much he carries around with him.
Probably another way. Do you think he's one of the most real detectives? Because Annie, the scene in the restaurant where she says, I switch off.
Yeah.
And breathe it. Well,
if
you were doing his job, how
he's
could you
not
go?
Able to.
How could you go home and switch on the telly?
No, exactly. And fighting against injustice and having to do it the procedural way that you have to must be incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
And especially when you've got the right person, but there's 1,000 loopholes that they could get out of, and you've got to keep it all under wraps when you must be dying to scream through the red tape and just beat a confession out of someone, but you can't. So all these little things are sent to try them.
So is there a part of you wish you could just turn into something like Gene Hunt?
Yeah. Exactly, and that's why I think that series worked so well. Things just seemed a lot easier in the 70s.
Yes.
Not necessarily better, of course.
What is Red Barrel, for instance?
Quite right.
And guest stars this series, we've got quite a good lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. With John Bowe in the first series, and John Light, and Michael Maloney in this, and Raquel Cassidy. Real top people who all just embraced the show superbly and are great challenges and great fun as well.
And you mentioned the two policemen in Oxford Street. I mean, can you go about, especially if your series has just been on, can you walk around the street and
well, not really. I mean, we've been filming a lot in Otley, and there's a lot of bookshops in Otley. All of them have Aftermath in the window. So if you watch very carefully, and then there's sort of people sticking their heads out of shops. Hang on, he's there for real. How can he be in my shop window? So it's quite a bizarre experience, and I guess if this series is popular, then there'll be even more recognition next year.
3 times as much, isn't it?
Exactly.
And what do they, when people come up to you, if they don't come up to you for this, what do they recognise you for?
Well, they often wonder why I don't have a giraffe with me. There's usually a comment about, I bet you wish you were in Africa. You get that quite a lot. But there's all sorts. There's a lot of people who remember Brastoff. There's a lot of big fans of Damien from Drop the Dead Donkey, and grafters as well. People are very fond of. So it's a mixture of them.
Gosh, absolutely.
But it's
you
nice.
rattle them off like that.
Yeah.
There's some great stuff there.
Absolutely.
5-minute warning.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
Sorry.
Make the rain stop.
Yeah.
I think we both did Robson recently. He was still talking about grafters and
Yeah.
the good old days.
We'd love to bring it back. 'Cause, I mean, they're brothers, so they're always going to have that bind.
There's no
You
reason why
could pick them up anytime. Yeah.
And what about comedy? Do you feel that sort of period is behind you in a way?
Oh
Or
no. I still try and get as much comedy into anything that I do, because people do. People always make light of situations if they're nervous or whatever. So yeah, I try to get as much in as I can. But it would be nice to do some more comedy. Wait and see.
And of course, these sorts of, it's classic emergency services humour, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
you've got to
I
have
think
that
it's
black sense of humour.
it's a survival mechanism. I think gallows humour.
I think we're done.
Well, thank you very much. Hope you don't get too wet.
Get my brolly up
I
first.
think we were just staring at this saying, gosh, we're not going to get. They said that come prepared for the worst.
Yeah.
Of course.
Have you had any problems with the weather? Real problems?
No, none at all. We've been very fortunate.
Yes, actually missed all the snow, so.